Hello and welcome to Facebook Live with Kendra Ruth. I am Kendra Ruth from The Hero Spouse, and today I am going to answer your questions about marriage and midlife crisis. So I have about 8 questions to get through. If I do not get through all of them, I will go back to pre-recording my Q&As. I usually do 3 of those a week, and any that don't get, they will be covered in later weeks or coming up through the next week. So the first thing, I'm going live in 3 places. I am going live on YouTube. I'm going live in a private Facebook group and a public Facebook page. If you're on the private group, your comments can only be seen by other members of the private group who are actually in that group at that moment. But if you're on the public page, your friends might get notifications, or they can see them if they went to that page. So you are not as protected. So in case you don't know which group you're in, I'm going to go through and comment, put in the comments in this video. Give me a moment as I refresh my screen on both the public and private page. In YouTube, everyone can see your comments. So if you're on YouTube, you probably know it. Okay, good. I am coming in fine. Let me know if you are having any problems with hearing me. I just did a sound check and it came through, but sometimes when I go back in, it doesn't work. So let me know. Okay, the comment has come through on the public page. Now let me grab the comment for the private. So in addition with this comment, I give you the link for Understanding Midlife Crisis, which is my free course. And that is a course that is meant to get your first questions kind of out of the way. Coming in fine, good. And I'm also putting a link for Stand Up and Thrive, which is my membership, which is a paid membership. Last week we did a Facebook Live, and we do the Facebook Live this week. I do live Facebook Lives when I open the cart and when I close the cart, so that I can discuss Thrive as a launch and a closing notification for the membership. I open it approximately every 8 weeks because Stand Up and Thrive includes Detach and Thrive, my 8-week course. And so we give 8 weeks for all of the new members to go through. Stand Up and Thrive closes tonight at 9 o'clock Pacific time. So, okay, I'm going to refresh my screen over here. And good, coming through. So I will watch the comments, but I don't always keep up if I'm getting really on a roll on answering. So sometimes I will stop and answer. Sometimes I may ask questions based on what I'm talking about and who I'm talking to, if I'm answering your question and you're watching live. So sometimes I get people responding right back to me on the question. But we will get through as many as we can. I will number each one. So if you have to go back through and you use a transcript thing, you can actually go to the transcript and say number 1, number 2, and find your. So to get started, the number 1 today we have, and most of these are spillover from last week where we didn't get through all of them. We have an anonymous female left behind and forward-moving spouse. She has a bomb drop of May 22nd, 2016, a date of marriage. I may have asked on this one, but it's not in my notes. It might be in old notes, because the date of marriage or the bomb drop is wrong, because this date of marriage says May 25th, 2016. So it in the question. Contact type is a clinging boomerang with an energy level that is a high energy replayer. She says, since bomb drop, my husband has gone through most of the stages of a midlife crisis. But in retrospect, everything seemed to be script. Well, yeah, that's normal. Okay. The alienated the apartment. He filed, unfiled, then wanted both of us. During the years he was gone, we went to counseling. We dated a bit, and he remained friendly, even though I consistently put up boundaries when I knew there was cake eating. He wanted to be free, and also after 5 years, okay, so 2016, after 5 years, we're then at 21. After 5 years, he has to come home. I knew he was in midlife crisis, but agreed. He spent the first 8 months at home grieving the alienator and being miserable. And that's normal also. I told him if he was that unhappy, he was free to leave. That seemed to shock him, and the next months were lovely. He was engaged, and we were back on track. Then he became angry, depressed, and more withdrawn. It's gotten worse in the past year. He sleeps in the guest room. My question is, what's going on? I assumed it would slowly get better with more more reconnection. I haven't read anything about this sort of behavior. I'm just confused. So, and I know we had a couple of questions that were on similar lines last week. And one of the people in those ones said, I know that they come home broken, so I recognize that. So first thing, there's they come home broken. The second, you said we went to counseling, dated a bit. Now, but when you said you went to counseling, this was during the years he was gone. What about, you didn't say anything about counseling after he moved home. So that is the first order of business, is if you don't go into solving it with a professional, it's probably not going to get resolved. Not the midlife crisis, but the healing of your, what broke between you two, the healing of the betrayal, and his feelings of guilt and how he can overcome them. Sometimes that's personal counseling, but I would work on marriage counseling with marriage friendly. If you ask them if they're marriage friendly, they're like, well, duh, I'm a marriage counselor, right? No, there used to be a marriage friendly therapist registry. And to be on it, you had to stipulate to certain things. I don't know that it exists anymore. Bill Doherty started that, and that was 20 or 25, maybe even 30 years ago. So that may no longer be. But to be on it, you had to stipulate that you considered the marriage the client, not any of the individual people as it. The marriage is the client. And no, we're not going to guarantee saving your marriage, but you're coming in here for the purpose of your marriage. That's why we're marriage counselors. We're not uncoupling counselors. So I would find somebody that is marriage friendly, if that's a possibility, if you can do that. That may be some targeted questions if you interview them. And also consider somebody that is trained, especially if they specialize in it, that'd be awesome, in EF focused therapy. It was created, I think, by Sue Johnson, but there's a couple Susans. I have Susan Forward for emotional blackmail, so could be mixing up some names. It was created for recovery from affairs. So that is the EFT, emotionally focused therapy, is based on helping affair recovery. If you can find someone who accepts midlife crisis, bonus, but you may not. Okay. And so setting up too many requirements, you might not find anybody. Part of it is you haven't healed. He hasn't healed. He may still be in his midlife crisis. Like you said, you knew when he came home, and it was at 5 years. I get it. They can be through their midlife crisis in 5 years, and now it has been 7. You're at 7 years. And yeah, midlife crisis goes 3 to upwards of 7. So of course, 7 is within that realm, and upwards of 7 is within the possibility, but getting more like, what's taking them so long? We're saying that 5 is more normal, so 7, unfortunately. But you're at the point where, even if we're not supposed to have expectations, we do. And who blames you? You need to live with your life. Hold on. So let's talk about a couple things that can happen with a midlife crisis, but I really want you, as a priority, think about therapy. Okay. But midlife crisis, you go through the stages, and we talk about stages, but I don't like us to focus on them. The longest stage you're going to experience is what most of you, because Jim Conway, who wrote Men in Midlife Crisis, and often many people use that as their original document, called stage 4 replay. And then Heart's Blessing, who started out at divorce busting, just like me as a left behind spouse, rewrote some of Jim's descriptions, and she was very popular with the way she described the 6 stages, and she just used his terms. She just took what Jim did, and she just did it better. She just wrote it better. I don't call it replay. I use the term replay, but I determined that at that stage 3 in Jim's description, and he used Elizabeth Kubler-Ross's stages of death and dying. Her bargaining is what he called replay. Because there are 2 types during that bargaining replay stage. Some people midlifers are high energy, and they fit Jim's description of replay. Some are low energy, and they might try to fit it in the beginning, but it just doesn't work with them. So what I have said is that stage, I call it escape and avoid because that describes the behavior. But there's two types. There's a replay and a low energy. High energy replayer, low energy weller. So you have that stage. You've got escape and avoid. Then you go to what I call liminality. Jim called depression, but it's all MLC's depression, so that's confusing. And then you get into, you cross over, I say there's a little bridge called after that, reintegrating into society. But when you reintegrate into society, wait, I need more work on myself. So you run back across the bridge to this place that Jim called depression, I call liminality. It's where you actually face the mirror. Oh, I need to make these more changes to myself. And then you go back across the bridge. Or look at it this way. In what Jim called acceptance, because Kubler-Ross called acceptance, I call reintegration. There's return, backward to return, but you go to a liminal period again. And then you go through a replay or an escape and avoid period again, possibly. I'm not going to make a guarantee on this. Heart's Blessing talks about it. She says you return to the stages to shut the doors on them. So there may be a mini. So what happens is things are great. And maybe they're great for a while. And then suddenly it's like, wait a second, what just hit us? It's like we're back in the first stage I experienced when he was partying all the time. It's a mini partying all the time, bachelor life or frat boy period replay. It's a mini one. And they go through these possibly to shut the doors. So that is a possibility. Hold on, let me read the question. Okay. It's me and he's switching back from replay to withdrawal like a madman. I think he's living on the bridge. Yeah. So that may very well be what's going on. And so I don't want to say it's a normal thing, but it is not. I don't know if Heart's Blessing said she expects all like using universal modifiers. I just like everybody out there to know this is a common piece of what happens is they return to those stages, hopefully for many. But you need the counseling. So if you haven't done the counseling, that's more my concern is go through the therapy and then discuss that with each other. Also, if he's going through an escape and avoid period again, which hopefully is a mini compared to before, and you said going through the withdrawal, I don't call it withdrawal like Jim had. That's probably where I put the bridge, what Jim called withdrawal. But withdrawal is a confusing term because they withdraw from you in the beginning. Oh, are they in withdrawal? They withdraw from the alienator. They withdraw, they cycle. Oh, back and forth. And so it all feels like depression. It all feels like withdrawal or forward, back and forth. And so it's confusing term. But yes, it does feel like he's going through these and cycling. So some counseling, marriage counseling, personal therapy that could be for both of you to help you understand what's happening and going through it. But remember, it's like an MLCer is like in escape and avoid. I don't know what I want. I don't know who I am. I don't know if I want to be in this marriage. So he may be feeling those feelings again. It doesn't mean they're going to stay. But he may be feeling doubt again. And I don't want that to scare you. What I want you to recognize more is this is a normal part of the midlife crisis, even though it's a scary part and it sucks. Okay. I would say you still have better chances than others because you've already gotten past the hard part where people don't usually get past. Odds are against all of us for reconciliation. That sucks, and I want to change it. But you've already gotten through where you've done it before. So I'm hoping that helps more. Okay, you're welcome. Let's go on to number 2. And let's check our time. Okay. Again, we have an anonymous female left behind spouse and forward-moving spouse. Bomb drop in this one was recent. March 27th, 2023. Date of marriage, 1993. And she says off and on. And I have another one later on that is brand new, even newer, that says off and on. With this first thing, I say no, not off and on. In this one, I have to reread it again. I haven't read them since last week. But I don't first... I don't solidify a contact type. until it's been a year. I can solidify a little before that, but I'm hesitant to. So the next one I have, it's only 3 weeks since bomb drop. There's no counting yet. So this one, she says off and on and low energy wallower. But if you have any regular contact, doesn't matter the reason, off and on is a distant contactor. If you have any regular contact, you're going to be in boomerang territory. So let's look. Bomb drop was 27 March, low energy wallower. She's repeating it. He seems very depressed and tired. Now, just the fact, if you know that he seems these things, you've had some contact with him, so it wouldn't be off and on. He struggles to focus. Okay. He moved out in July. That was why I said not an off and on. He is August 10th. So he moved out to July. He has been gone a month and a week. So that is not enough time for him, even if you've heard zero from him in the 5.5 weeks since him moving out, to be an off and on. I want there to be no, but I don't want it, but there's no contact for 3 months, every 3 months approximately. It's subjective, but, and it doesn't matter the reason for contact, but every 3 months, if he contacts you every month, that would still be boomerang territory, even though every hour, every day. It's a big spectrum, okay? So it sounds like you still have contact. Since then, he only contacts if he needs something, like finances or items he still wants to collect the house. So he contacts. It can be for neutral reasons, business reasons, child reasons. The only exceptions I give are later when they're required by court to see you because you're in court together, that sort of thing. Where now, if there's somebody who keeps you in court, then maybe it's a tactic for keeping to have that narcissistic supply. But if they only are there because of court and it's not like poke, poke, poke. See, otherwise he appears to be blocking all contact. I'm not sure whether I should consider him a vanisher. He'd be a vanisher if you didn't hear from him more than, if you heard from him twice a year. Heard from him for any reason other than that, the exception I gave. So he's not even close to either an off and on or a vanisher. He is a boomerang. Their contact type can or does change with progression. It can change, but don't bank on it doing that or not based on what you're seeing, because you're looking right now at, I'm not feeling an emotional connection. So his reasons for contacting don't qualify as boomerang. No. His reasons for contacting don't qualify as clinging. Clinging is just a modifier that usually accompanies the boomerang part. I talk about them as separate pieces because at clinging, they contact you twice a year and do they seem clinging when they do it? Most vanishers wouldn't. I've seen a few, and by a few, I mean few, that qualify as clinging with off and on. Clinging is an emotional connection. But of course, if with an off and on, when they aren't in contact with you, out of sight, out of mind. That's possible. Some people are just that way. I'm that way, out of sight, out of mind. I forgot to call my mom for like 3 weeks. We're very close. Forgot to call her. I mean, just, oops, sorry. If I were away, I'll check regularly. And why aren't you calling me? I would have to set reminders to myself. So some people can be very attached in a healthy attachment or connected. And, I was focused on what I'm doing, and I can get very focused like that. So I understand that sort of thing. If there's to be any hope of some sort of reconciliation in the future, how do I deal with this no contact at the current while focusing on me? You deal with it by focusing on you. You don't have no contact. You have regular contact because he's contacting you. Now, you can work on smart contact, and to understand what that is, you go to Marriage Helpers. They are created the idea of smart contact. It is an acronym. And so that's their program. They have a program for it, I believe. I think they have a paid online course. And follow smart contact. That would talk about whether you need to initiate, and you do it without pressure, and you keep contact neutral. But if you contact with you, even for neutral reasons, on a regular basis, you may not need to initiate the contact. Maybe what you have to work on in the smart contact is how to keep it going rather than having a closed-ended contact, such as when you ask a question, is it a yes-no question? incident. So open contact, closed contact, like questions. Open questions don't have yes, no answers. So study smart contact for how to deal with that. But what you do is you focus on you and you accept the process of midlife crisis. Your bomb drop was just not even 6 months ago, not quite even 5 months ago right now. So I know that sucks to hear that you're new to this, but it's still the early days. And his leaving was maybe or maybe not an expectation from you. And I don't, expectation is confusing, but we talk about expecting everything, anything, and nothing. But from my side of it, strong possibility. In that sense, that's where I use the word expectation. That warning to give to you, MLCers leave. Most do leave and of their own accord. Some will leave because you're like, hey, you need to get out. And they'll leave of their own accord because you said it or recommended, and some have to be kicked out. Hold on a sec. But what you do is you focus on you. How do you focus on you when all of your thoughts are obsessing on him? And why won't he contact me? His contacts are so neutral. They are all business. They're clinical. That he only contacted me because he needed something or he wanted to get something. Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes those are great excuses for contacting you. And think of it as subconscious. They don't have to recognize that they're contacting you because they're trying to get a you fix. But because they contacted you, they didn't have to show emotional connection. But it still got them there. And so they could keep it neutral so you don't know that. And let's face it, subconsciously, they don't know it either, possibly. But what do you do now in the meantime? Focusing on you. You'll work on detachment. And how do you do that? Mindfulness. That is, to me, first thing, detachment. The most important tool in your toolbox, detachment. It is how you get through healing. It is the method to healing. How do you do detachment? Mindfulness. So if detachment itself has a toolbox, the toolbox is mind. Look at what things you can do that are mindful. So maybe a meditation to get you to sleep at night, because sleep was a big deal in the beginning, where he's clinging to the edge of the bed before he moved out and I'm not sleeping. So I started practicing. Right then I didn't even have an actual guided anything because he's next to me. I'm just going to calm down. I'm going to close my eyes. I'm going to do some counting, whatever it was. And I didn't always sleep, but it helped me during those early weeks when I wasn't sleeping. I still had to get up at, I think I was getting up at 2 or I had to be on the bus a little after 4 a.m. to commute to work. So I was getting up early and that sort of thing. And I needed that rest, didn't I? So think about the different sorts of mindfulness. Meditation is one. You can go get free meditations on YouTube. They're awesome. Hypnotherapy. That can be a guided meditation or hypnotherapy. You can, if you get hypnotherapy specific for you, and you'll talk to the hypnotherapist and say, here's what I specifically need. So it's tailored. Awesome. Go for the runner's high. So exercise. How about adult coloring books or other forms of art, creation, pottery? What are the things that can be mindful for you? A walk in the woods. Maybe there aren't woods. During Texas midlife crisis, we lived in Tacoma. It's not, for those of you who are at international or national and don't know Tacoma, it's not the great. But I still went for walks. I got my Tamo, my dog, out, and we went out for walks. I had started running before bomb drop, so I would go out for runs. I did things for me. Other things that may not have been mindful, but were get a life things or projects in the house. I painted the house, the interior. Chuck had just painted the exterior the year before we left or so. But I painted the interior. I painted the inside walls first, and then maybe in the next year or so, I worked on some bedrooms. So, and owned it. That's what you do for focusing on you. And you focus on you, and you focus on you. And it's a gradual process that eventually you realize I'm thinking more on me. I'm thinking less about the obsessiveness of this. I'm becoming more accepting of it. And accepting can be you don't have to accept it. It's over. You can accept the process of midlife crisis and accept that maybe, but not yet. I'm not ready for that yet. It's going to be a gradual change. Okay. On to number 3. And let's see. Okay, no more comments coming through yet, but I will double check if they aren't working. Okay. Okay, good. And okay. So, another anonymous female forward-moving spouse with this time a bomb drop of. We are really into the newbies today. That one was March. This is April 23. Date of marriage of 2008. She is not familiar with the contact type terms and says energy level is a high energy replayer. She says if the MLCer, who is 40, is externally in a hurry and in huge emotional turmoil, is there a chance it will burn out quicker? Or is my MLCer just crazier than average? There's more than that to it. But I remember talking about that in the beginning. He's crazy. What's going on? Does it mean why is he burning so much and want to be back with me? Then I'd say, is he burning through it faster? Why is he burning through it faster? Because he wants to come home now. Why does he seem normal again? Why not? So, no. Just as a really quick. It doesn't mean he's crazier, but let's look. It doesn't mean it's going to burn out quicker. And in midlife crisis, it's chocolate chip cookies take 9 to 12 minutes. There are some cookies, depending on, that might take a little bit longer, chocolate chip variety, but probably all varieties of basic chocolate chip are at least a minimum of 9 minutes. So you're not going to create an MLCer that is in 6-minute cookie. We were almost together 19 years. He said he was not in love with me. I kicked him out, then asked and pleaded. So you did the kicking out and then you regretted it. Okay. We had a false start and another bomb drop in a week. After 7 more days, he knew he wanted the divorce and was quite surprised that I wasn't agreeing. I get it because Chuck was so surprised that I didn't agree to it. And I'm like, what? I'm talking about starting a family. And now you just, in a matter of days, you thought I would agree? You thought I didn't love you? What? Yeah, been there. So she said, surprised I'm not agreeing, and he was pushing it since then. Yeah. Most of them, there are many that do it still on the spectrum, but most don't push the divorce immediately. Now, many verbally do that, and then they really don't do anything about it. There's some of them put action behind it and file. Chuck did. It's like, why is he moving so fast on all of these things? In his case, there was an alienator pushing behind him to do it. So, and it wasn't what you had in wasn't a false start in another book. It feels like that when you don't know yet. Okay, so let me get back. He suddenly installed dating apps. He barely contacts the kids who are 13 and 11. He hangs out with divorced friends and he goes to concerts. So he's doing the party. Yesterday, he started divorce paperwork or filed. I'm not sure which. Yeah, that's how it was with me. He unfriended me on Facebook and he changed his relationship status to single. We didn't have Facebook. MySpace was just starting and I remember him being on that. A month ago, he was screaming that I'm strangling him with this marriage because I did not want to date his friend. And that friend told him about me having hopes that he will come back. He's now angry. My MSR is angry at me, and since once every 2 weeks or so. I'm using Smart Contact, and I don't contact if he doesn't contact. Okay, that's good. Go for it. First thing, his friend. It is normal for you at this stage to still have hopes of a return. So that is for people who don't end up being standards, but in the beginning you're just so shocked, it's still normal. It's like, what's going on? I've just had my world blown up and I don't believe it yet. So if I were somebody's friend and knew this, I understood at least even a basic understanding of the psychology of it, I'd like, yeah, that's normal. After a while though, I would think, I don't understand this. I'm not familiar with, if I were just a friend and I'm not familiar with midlife crisis, what are they doing still saying they want to come back? I'm surprised. But, oh, that's interesting. Oh, good for you, maybe, depending on my views. But I would stop confiding in this friend like that, because he's telling your husband that you still have hope, and your husband, that scares him. There are many reasons that scares him. First thing, he's going to disappoint you because he doesn't feel it. And I don't say that to scare you. He's in a midlife crisis. Their feelings change from day to day, minute to minute, hour to hour sometimes, depending on if they're a rapid cycler or not. Chuck was a rapid cycler. He'd come home, take a nap, and wake up a different person wanting a different thing. Usually when he woke up, and this is just the beginning before he moved out 6 weeks between the horny teenager. There were benefits to the horny teenager, I'll admit it. But he'd go to sleep, a 4-year-old, and he would want me to tuck him in, and he'd pull the blankets up like this, and he'd tuck me in. Sometimes he'd go to, or sometimes I remember one day, must have been April, because bomb drop was March, and I was working, and I did not apparently respond to his request that I mow the lawn fast enough. And I looked out and it was raining. I think I would have probably said no anyway, but he didn't like it. But I looked out and he was wearing shorts, and I think they were boxers, an open plaid shirt, slippers, and mowing the lawn. This is nuts. He's out there in slippers in the rain, mowing the lawn. And he was but when he came back in from mowing it, because he'd been very angry, he came back in a different person, because he said, that calmed me down. I was feeling Then I think on that occasion, he went to his nap. This was all within probably a 90-minute space of those 3 personalities. So you can have a rapid cycler. They are feeling guilty. They're feeling ashamed. They see the damage they're doing to you, but they don't have they recognize somewhat in themselves that I can't live up to it. I don't want to live up to the duties, the responsibility. There's too much on my shoulders. I can't do it. There's too much going on. And you having hope, you can have, but when they know it, that's a burden on them. That's a pressure on them. So your hope is private. And it's not always that way. I don't know if I used that term hope with Chuck, because hope is something I hope I win the lottery. Of course, I'm not going to, because I don't ever play. But, maybe somebody will magically give me a winning ticket, right? So hope. But they hear about this hope. I told Chuck, of course, that's not how this works. So I didn't say, yeah, I don't think so. I told him, I married you. I didn't marry you so that we could end it. I didn't marry you so we could give up on it. I didn't marry you so we wouldn't work together on it. But I didn't do it like I really want us to do these things. Now, maybe in the first few weeks, I probably was wishy-washy, but I got pretty solid on how I framed these things. Whereas hope, we think of it as a beautiful concept, but there's certainty and there's hope. So I said, I'm standing for my marriage, whether you want it or not. This is your divorce. It's not mine. I disagree. What you're doing is wrong. I didn't leave wiggle room in there. But many of them will just tease you, make fun of you when you do that. So it doesn't work with all of them. Okay? But right now he's going to feel you're strangling with him when he realizes you have hope, because he doesn't have it. So you focus on you, and if he's like, you're strangling me with your hope, and you're like, you know what is my business? Because I'm not trying to strangle you. I just don't agree with you. But I'm not forcing you to do anything with the marriage. I'm not forcing you to fix it. I'm not forcing you to go to therapy. I can tell you, you know what is right and wrong. And I'm not forcing you to do what is right. You already know what it is. Notice I didn't leave wiggle room there. I didn't say, I think you know what's right. I think you know you're doing what's wrong. I didn't do it. But then I didn't harp on it about it, how he's going on. I said, but you know what? You're going through something right now. And that's okay. Then you get the empathy. You're going through something right now, and that's okay. You're having some doubts about us, and that's okay. I don't like it, no. But hey, I can't control your doubts. I can't control your feelings. You own your feelings, but you have to allow me to own mine as well. And my feelings are different than yours right now, right? Us have different goals. And that's just too bad. I don't like it, and I have to accept it also. And it's an end of conversation. So in other words, we're not having a relationship conversation about this. I'm not saying I want you to come back. Don't you know? You dedicated your life to me. You made vows, blah, blah, blah. It's just more burden. This is in the beginning, and he's going to be running and running and running. And if you haven't already, go watch the videos for understanding midlife crisis. Sign up for the free course if you haven't, and watch through them. Okay, then make sure to be involved if you can in the forum or the Facebook page, because that is your support group. If you or anyone else wants to join for more support or stand up and thrive where we meet live, go ahead. There are other supports out there though. We just, with the live groups, we just get like, a boost because it's personal. Okay, I am going to move on. I'm not sure how much I got in there, but I'm going to move on. And I'm trying not to say names when I do the comments, but I know the comment that just came in. You are just, I haven't read the comment yet, but I've just seen the name. Oh, it might, yeah. Okay, seen the name, and you are the last one on my list today. So if I don't get to it, I will be getting to it in a personal video. But let me see what you're saying. When they're with the alienated, they still cycle in various personalities. Often, yes. I'll try and expand. Or do the alienators get a really nice, charming version of them? Oh, not really, but they might get that for a little while. What I want you to do is go to the main site or the blog, and if you need more links, you can let me know, or post about it in the Facebook page, and people will help you with links right now because I can't get going. But go read about the affair down. I have an article on the affair down. In fact, go into the articles and read the understanding infidelity and betrayal articles. There's two areas where they have those. One area is, plus there could be at the blog, they're more, it's just by chronology. But at the main site, midlifecrisismarriageadvocate.com, they are in 3 sections. And there's a section about infidelity, and it goes over some of the chemistry of it in the first section, which is the Understanding Midlife Crisis and Infidelity section, the MLC section. Then there's a section 2, which is about focusing on yourself. And then part 3 of articles goes over the standing actions, and that has also a series of articles or chapter in that as well. It is that area that has the affair down article. So I'm going, like I said, you are number 8 today. So if I get there, but you know what, I have 20 minutes left, and I do have to try and be done on time because my Jeremiah, he's almost 10. One of my own, 2 that are very close in age. So Jeremiah has a therapy appointment I have to get him to. Okay, so we're going to go to number 4. We have an anonymous female left behind. Say bomb drop of July 12th, 2018. A date of marriage of 2002. She has a clinging boomerang who is a low energy wallower. She says, my ex-husband is a known person in Europe, so he gives interviews. That way I hear his side because we never talk about it. We never talk about our relationship, even though we see each other weekly, and he started to reconnect last year. In those interviews, he says that he changed his life 5 years ago and that his life is more balanced. So 5 years ago, we're at 23, the bomb drop time. Okay. He used to be a workaholic with a lot of stress. It hurts to hear that he's happier without me, but maybe it's a good thing that he looked for more balance. Should I try to talk to him about it? 3 years ago, which was 2 years into his midlife crisis, he texted me on Valentine's Day, said that he felt alone and felt the need to talk to me about everything, but that he was afraid he'd hurt me. So I texted back, if you don't feel ready, then we can always talk later. But ever since he hasn't started the conversation about our relationship, or in those interviews, he says that he's single. I know he has had an extramarital affair, an emotional affair, for 10 years with my then best friend who's divorced. At the time, he chose to be with his family, so 10 years back, and he was yanked out of the tunnel. And the way you say it, it sounds like you've listened to what I've said, because that's the terminology I use. I always say yanked out of the tunnel, and then they will go back in for a worse crisis. And 5 years later, bomb drop happened. Okay, so, I don't know on this, but what I'm going to tell you is it's give an idea of himself for his public persona. That isn't accurate, because he's showing you other pieces of himself that are discongruent with his public persona. It's like, you're happy here, you're confused and doubting here. You say you went and you've got more balance and you're happier, and you're hearing that he's happier, but your personal experience with him doesn't match that. What you see in him isn't matching it. So he is trying to put on a face for his public persona. That's not a bad thing. Persona, and you have to get in and you have to go to work. So today, or last night, my 16-year-old cat, Charlie Wilson, was injured, and we had to do all sorts of stuff. And this morning I had to call the vet, and we had to rush him into urgent care. And when I got into my office, I was like, oh my God, I'm dripping. And then I'm like, yeah, I'm showing you. So I'm pulling back the curtain, but okay, put on the face. Go, you can do this. And honestly, when I get here and do these of that, but I have to put on the face and not show, oh my God, I'm so stressed. I have to get Jeremiah here and I have to get here. Same thing. Okay. He has to put on this face of the persona of the professional, the work person. He's a known person. It doesn't mean it's accurate. That's the thing. Or sometimes there could be truths that are within each piece. So, the real him, the secret him. And he can confide in that. 2 years into his midlife crisis, so 3 years ago, he told. But you said recently more that he was reconnecting. He started to reconnect last year. Now, reconnect it was just coming more towards you without an official talk of relationship. You get to a point where it's, as my old mentor said, shit or get off the pot. Yes, you can't avoid talking about your relationship forever. You're getting the advice, oh, don't talk about your relationship after bomb dropped, all of these things, and I don't follow those. I think they're good standards to look at. What I say when I mean is I don't follow them. I don't take everything as absolute. I look at each situation. Chuck and I had relationship talks all the time because he brought them up sometimes. And sometimes I had to okay, go with the flow, be really careful here. Okay, we're getting into bad territory, steer away from it. Or, okay, let's see where this goes. As long as I accept the consequences of that. You can have a relationship talk with him. It might be time. Just go into it tentatively. Little tender feet, because think of yourself as approaching a wounded bird, and they might want to lash out in different ways. Sometimes it's just like, I wasn't expecting this now. And so he feels surprised. This came out of the blue. What do I do now? Go about it gently so that, you know what? I want to talk about this, and if you'd like to do it now or later, so that he gives some time to think about it. Give him some space after you do that. Either if you put in a request to talk, give him space after that. If it's not a request to talk, the talk is now. Give him, and he does it, give him some space after the talk. In other words, accept and prepare for a withdrawal. Or not, but I don't want you to go, oh my God, he got scared, he withdrew, what's wrong? It's normal. He has to process, he has to think, he has to work through his doubts and fears. And if he doesn't do that, he might come out with just showing the doubts and fears, like, I don't want this, but that might be a lashing out of a person, not what's really deeper inside. Okay, so I just think that real person is probably what you see with the reconnection, the texting, the need to talk to you about everything, but he was afraid he'd hurt me. So when you said he was afraid he'd hurt me, that sentence can be taken to as he was afraid he had hurt me or he would hurt me. The that contraction could be either of those. Had being, he was afraid that he'd already hurt me in the past. And so what do I do now? He was maybe or he would hurt me, which could also mean I recognize I had hurt you. I'm afraid I will hurt you because I'm not ready yet. And what you do with either of those is, yes, what has happened has been hurtful, but I'm a big girl and I can handle it. And when you say you're afraid you'll hurt me, and not intentionally, but what will go through, I'm afraid I don't have the capacity yet for the healing, and I'm afraid it'll just be more hurt. Like, trickle truths, and they come out as you learn more. Sometimes you're more hurt. But let me make the decisions. Chuck was like, said similar things as, I'm afraid that, and he would be making the choice for me. You're not making a good choice to be with me, so I'm going to make the choice for you that you shouldn't be with me, even though I want to be with you. But I'm not a good person. So there's the martyr going on. It's like, you let me make choices for my life, okay? And I am choosing to be with you. And when I choose that, I understand some of the consequences. Love is always a risk. Some of the consequences could be that I get hurt sometimes. But you know what? Here's the other thing. Love has hurt and it has joy. And there's a balance, and we hope the joy is much more than the hurt. But every year, there's probably going to be something that hurts. And hopefully every year and every day, there's going to be joy that overwhelms the hurt. But it's not always all one thing. It's not always all rainbows and unicorns. Okay, I'm going to check my time. Oh, good. I still have a few minutes left. And we are going on to number 5. We have, anonymous female left behind and forward moving spouse, bomb drop of March 11th, 2020, date of marriage of 2013. She has a clinging boomerang who's a high energy player. She says, my ex is definitely in midlife crisis, but it seems he's a womanizer as well. And I tried to go back through the questions I've answered with this one, but it was still a week ago. So let's see. There's a lot of gossip about him cheating on me even before he met the alienator. These were purely sexual encounters. I recently learned that my father-in-law was a terrible womanizer as well. From what I hear at midlife, he was worse than his son until he lost his business and was bankrupt. That straightened him out. So I have 2 questions. Does MLC run in families? Also, come to think of it, my ex has been in replay since even before bomb drop, drinking, partying, traveling, and acting like a 15-year-old, never resting for a moment. How long can replay last, and does it take something bad like losing all of the money to snap them out of it? What does finally make them quit the foolish, empty lifestyle? Okay, first thing, one of the things that I'm trying to recall, but I think is he does seem to have higher narcissistic tendencies than others. MLC men in midlife crisis, and especially clinging boomerangs, from what I notice, high levels of narcissism. Now, I do not mean that they are that way outside of midlife crisis. Some of them may very well have been. But during midlife crisis, it's like they are have narcissistic personality disorder. But part of the ways you qualify for it is you were that way before. You were that way since adolescence or young adulthood through now. So it doesn't mean that he disorder, it just seems that way. But he has seemed from what I'm trying to remember back to the other questions, he has a lot of narcissism in there. Now, given the father, that may be the case as well. But he got straightened out. But he was worse even. Does it run in families? Genetically, no. But the legacy, yeah. So son saw dad doing these things, and that can set it up. We don't know why all the time, because they oftentimes, that's the estranged parent, the parent they don't like, the parent I never want to be like, I don't want to be around them, or they're not fully estranged, but I don't like my dad. We don't get along. And oftentimes that parent didn't straighten out. And they say, I will never be like that man. And then that is the exact person they start to become. Sometimes at the same age it happened with that parent. Sometimes it's suddenly that, and they didn't like them before, and now they're best friends and hanging out with that one. Sometimes it's the loss of that parent, and maybe they still don't like them, but processing the loss of somebody who was their father or their mother, who they loved because of that, but who was so flawed and damaging and maybe in many ways abusive, even if it was covert abuse. They didn't think of it as abuse until now because of the traumas that happened. And there's this discongruence. How do you bring those two together? And it might be what brings on a crisis. So we do see a legacy of MLC in families. Just like I have 5 adopted children. Every one of them, there's 3 families, every one of them came from families with drug backgrounds. 3 of the 5 were born addicted. And so we get others, foster kids in my system, in my group, foster support groups that were born addicted. But out of most of them, mine were the only ones that were so bad at birth that they had to be flown out to the trauma hospitals. They were some serious addictions that they were going through and having withdrawals from as 1-day-old babies. And so I know that they're living with me. I don't come from a background of drugs, but maybe there's a genetic component within them. They still have a legacy of these things. Serenity, she's my old, not born addicted, but it's in her family. I know one of the things with her, I want to be a YouTuber. Don't kids. And I want to tell my story. See, I want to do art on YouTube, but I want to tell my story all about my adoption and things and that I came from. And we got her when she was a little bit older, but not old enough to remember. 16 months. But so that is it means a lot. It is still part of their life. That story of who they are and that they are an adopted person, that they came from a different trauma, because she knows I'm going to tell the story of, my mom hurt me. And it doesn't matter that she doesn't remember it, but it's an important part of who she is to her. And so these legacies do continue on. So that was question number 1. 2 questions. Also, Come With It has been in replay since before bomb drop. How long can it last, and does it take something bad? Okay, so the big question, how long it can last. Remember, MLC 3 to upwards of 7 years, replays. 18 months is, to me, if you notice on the FAQs on the main homepage, I say one of the quite frequently asked questions is, what stage is my MLC in? And the answer that I give is, if you just had bomb drop, escape and avoid. If bomb drop was 6 months ago, escape and avoid. If bomb drop was 12 months ago, see the pattern, escape and avoid. And then I say, I think if bomb drop was 18 months ago, and I think at that when I changed it, I said, probably escape and avoid. And if bomb drop was maybe escape and avoid, but they could be moving out of it. So before 18 months, I don't expect them to be out of escape and avoid from bomb drop as the start of the time clock. And after it, they may still be in it for a long time, but they may not. So I don't see it being shorter than 18 months, in other words. But like the 3 to upwards of 7, where that's a big range, it can go like that. Okay. So he can be in the replay for a long time. Now, does it take something? In other words, will a crisis get them out of it? Not as it required, because maybe there's no crisis. Okay, pandemic was a crisis we all had, one that often got many other people into it now. Yes and no, a crisis can get them out of it, but it's not going to if they're not already sitting there at the end, waiting at that, here's your exit sign to midlife crisis. And they might sit right on this side of the sign, scared to reintegrate. Remember that reintegration phase. They feel scared. So they stay back here in the safety of their doubt. And I don't know who I am, and I'm just depressed. They stay back in being irresponsible, because I'm not going to be a responsible person and I have more burden on me. And a crisis might push them out, but they have to be there at that exit, standing there, not walking through it. If they are way back here in replay, They haven't gone to liminality. They haven't, even tried to reintegrate crossing back and forth the bridge. No, crisis isn't going to. So my friend who I met during our midlife crisis together, I met her in Jim Conway's chat, Lingy or Helen. A crisis put her husband Joey, into it. And Helen was in the hospital and his mom was in the hospital. And they were on different floors and he was running back and forth saying, the two women I love are here and I'm only going to get to take one home. And the one he took home, she was having, I think, a double mastectomy and she had breast cancer. He got to take Helen home. But that was what his trigger. During the crisis, she had bypass. I don't know if it was double, triple, quarter, whatever. And he was at home taking care of her. But it didn't stop his crisis. A few weeks, she said he took care of her really well. He took her out for walks and things around the neighborhood because she was supposed to, part of her recovery was that. But once she was recovered, no. He was back around the corner at the alienators who lived just around the corner. No, it did not stop his crisis. He was not ready. So, no, a crisis won't bring them out. Now, Amy C., who was she was a stander on divorce busting, but her husband's midlife crisis was what we think, or she thought, triggered, or her midlife crisis, what triggered him into a midlife crisis. So she became the stander after she'd been the one who was in midlife crisis. She said a crisis pulled her out of it. I think she was probably following, and it was a motorcycle accident, and I believe he died in her arms. But as she also, I think, said, I could be remembering it wrong, she'd been getting to a point where she was ready. I don't know if she'd been ready for a long time, just not exiting. But she'd gone through, and she was ready to be out. That crisis could have just given her more doubts. Think about how the crisis that can trigger them into it. So the crisis causes doubts. Now the crisis causes, I better get my life together. But they have to be ready for it. Okay. It is 2:29. I am going to try to answer. And then so I'm going to try to go number 6. And then I have 7 and 8. I will, and keep sending questions because I try for 3 a week. I don't go over 3 a week because I really am trying to encourage people to come into the membership. The more people, if I start getting more people in a membership, I will do a Facebook Live for the membership every week. As it is now, I answer questions like I do this, and those go into membership only where they see it. But I would love to do this live thing weekly for the membership for free to 3 a week to encourage you to join. Okay. So we have an anonymous female forward moving spouse with a bomb drop of October 3rd, 2022. Actually, this one, it said sometimes there's a weird thing that happens when they submit. The dates get weird on the year. It said 20 and some funny stuff. So I put 2022 as my guess. But I don't know about the date of marriage because that was off too. And it says 12/31/2020. But I'm looking at maybe it was 2000 given the daughter's ages. So I don't. And she is not familiar with energy level or contact terms. She says it's been a rough road so far. He moved out 6 months ago and he's virtually pulled away from me since then. Now I don't know anything about him. He's been in an affair since last year and he lied to me about and our daughters who are 21 and 16. So the marriage is more than 21, isn't it? That he was going for a course in the US. We live in Africa. And he was going for a course in the US in December. Found out later that he was with his mistress for a month. He disappeared again this month. And till when? When I just confirmed the mistress part to our daughter, it says D kids this week. And we don't know how far this is going. He calls for a minute asking after D kids. I don't know what D kids means, but once in a while he calls kids, I'm just going to say kids, more, and he believes his relationship with the kids is perfect. He doesn't seem to see how much damage he's causing. Sorry, but this is normal. This is normal when it's not a midlife crisis too, and one person leaves and maybe they're a jerk or whatever. They don't get the damage. When they are focused on their navel gazing, their narcissism, they also are, divorce is common. It doesn't really happen at 50%, but that's the statistic people. It happens to 50% of the people. They all get over it. They all are fine with it, which isn't really true, but it makes them feel better. So hold Um, is the mistress pregnant? I'm suspecting. Should I go totally dark for a few times? A few times he calls, or should I pick up his call? Answer his calls. If he calls regularly or somewhat, he hasn't really vanished. Like you said, that you don't know anything about him, but he does call. If he calls, then you're getting some form of information. He has painted me black to everyone that cares to ask why he has changed to his family. That's normal. He doesn't give, it sucks, but it's normal. He doesn't give daughter's monthly home maintenance again and all his financial obligations. I think this is non-existent to him. So let's try and be quick. What you're describing, first thing, you aren't even a year in, and you're describing high energy replay, probably. Contact type, I'm going to say boomerang, because you still have contact that is frequent enough for flow of information. But you have a high energy replayer. He is in the doubting, escape and avoid, monstering. I just want to escape. I want to get out. This is my time. I'm calling the shots now. And the rest of you you don't want me to be happy. I'm upset, and I'm going to be against my daughters even because they don't want me to be happy. Why is everybody against me? And they're going to be fine. Kids are resilient. Anything that can make him feel better, he will focus on. Whatever people tell him that is about what he wants to hear. That is about the narrative he wants it to be. Now, what do you do with that? First thing, you accept that that's part of midlife crisis. And you go out and you get a life for yourself. You detach. You become grace-filled. So he's doing things that are wrong, betrayal, all of these. You have to walk a fine line between, hey, what you're doing is wrong. You've got to, I don't call them mistresses. I hate that term. Blah. You're having an affair. It's adultery. And then stepping back and you're making a mistake. And you know what? You're feeling confused. Maybe he's, yeah, good for you. That's your soulmate. And I know that you feel that way. Relationships that start as affairs are doomed. And that's just how it's going to be. Now, that's not a guarantee, but I go with that. I plant that seed in them. Relationships that start as affairs are often high conflict. And you know why? You know why they're going to be high conflict? Because I exist. Because our daughters exist. Because she is afraid of my existence. I am. You divorced me. I was the first wife. I was a wife before. I am the one with history. She's afraid. And she's going to be afraid, and your relationship is going to fester. Now, that's a seed I plant, and I do it shorter. But that is a type of a truth dart. Okay? But other than those, he's going to do these things. He's going to demonize you. And you know what you have to do? You be grace-filled. He goes low, you go high. Or let's say that his sister's talking to you and yeah, well, he said this, and you're just being, you know what? I'm sorry he's saying that. And notice how I soften my voice. I'm sorry he's saying that. But you know better. And you don't say he's going through a crisis, yeah, blah, blah. You know me better than that, though. No, I don't. He said this, and I believe him. Well, I'm sorry you feel that way. But I trust that you actually do know me better. You're a decent person. And I'm feeling very sad about what's happened to us. But I love you. And I love my husband. That hasn't changed. I don't love what he's doing. It's been hurtful. But I'm not going to demonize him. I'm not going to demonize you for believing things about me that you already know aren't true. But I am very hurt by what he's doing. Don't say by but what he's done has been hurtful. And yeah, sometimes I'm a puddle on the floor. But I'm still who I am. And it may not work with that person right away, but your acceptance of this is accepting that they're going to try to split people. And I get these friends and they think you're horrible. That's just too bad. Don't try and show them that it's true because that is a real thing that woman scorned. And people are warning him possibly that, hey, she's going to ruin all your stuff because that happened to my friend. And it might have. It's not just this fear that comes out of the blue. It's a real thing. So you be Gracefield. You show that. And it's a balancing act. So I want you to, if you haven't already, is go read or go watch the videos again for understanding midlife crisis. And then get involved in the groups because I want you learning about detachment and being. And I'm not explaining it fully right now in this rushed time. And I want you to really think about what you can do to be that. Okay? And I'm sorry I'm so rushed, but I got to get Jeremiah Davis therapy. And remember, Stand Up and Thrive closes tonight. There are links all over the Facebook page. And in some of the emails that I've sent, I am sending some more emails out tonight, unless you were one of the people who said I want to opt out of those. The last email that goes out as a reminder comes an hour before closing time. And closing is at 9 tonight. It's now almost 3. So closing in just 6.5 hours. So I hope to see you in Stand Up and Thrive. If I don't see you in Stand Up and Thrive, I will see you on the Facebook page, see you in the forums, and be answering your questions. So thanks for coming. And goodbye, everybody.